Persis Khambatta. What happened to Star Trek's first Deltan? Indian actress and model Persis Khambatta portrayed Lieutenant Ilia, Star Trek's first ever Deltan, in Star Trek, the motion picture. Born in Bombay, Khambatta won the beauty pageant title of Femina Miss India in 1965. Persis's big break in Hollywood was when she was cast as Lt. Ilia in Star Trek Phase 2, the sequel to Star Trek, the original series meant as the flagship show of Paramount's planned TV network. Instead, Star Trek Phase 2 was repurposed into 1979 as Star Trek, the motion picture, with Persis Khambatta joining the reunited Star Trek original cast. In Star Trek, the motion picture, Lt. Ilia was the navigator of the USS Enterprise. Persis Khambatta's Deltan was the first major new female character introduced in Star Trek since the original series ended. Deltans were a sexually liberated species, and Ilia took an oath of celibacy to join Starfleet. Ilia also had a previous relationship with Captain Will Decker, Stephen Collins, who was replaced by Admiral James T. Kirk, William Shatner, as captain of the Enterprise on their fateful mission to intercept the massive starship called VGR. What happened to Persis Khambatta's Lt. Ilia, Star Trek's first Deltan? When the Starship Enterprise made first contact with VGR, the alien vessel scan of the bridge disintegrated Lt. Ilia. However, VGR built an artificial probe with the exact physical characteristics of Ilia, but lacking the Deltan's memories or personality. Still, Captain Decker treated the synthetic Ilia as the real thing as she attempted to learn about humans at the behest of VGR. When Admiral Kirk, Spock, Leonard Nimoy, Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy, DeForest Kelley, Decker, and Ilia boarded VGR, Will and Ilia chose to merge with VGR to ascend into a higher life form. Decker and Ilia vanished and were never seen again after Star Trek, the motion picture. Persis Khambatta starred in films in India before Star Trek, the motion picture, and she appeared in Nighthawks and Megaforce after her memorable Star Trek role. Khambatta also made television appearances on MacGyver, Mickey Spillane Mike Hammer, and Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. Sadly, Persis Khambatta passed away in 1998 at the age of 49. A lifelong chain smoker, Khambatta was rushed to the hospital after complaining of chest pains, and she died of a massive heart attack on August 18, 1998. Persis Khambatta's Deltan has a unique Star Trek legacy. It would be decades until another Deltan was seen after Star Trek, the motion picture, but Persis Khambatta's Lt. Ilia spawned a unique legacy. When creating Star Trek, The Next Generation, John Roddenberry returned to the concept of past lovers, with Lt. Ilia and Captain Decker inspiring Counselor Deanna Troi, Marina Sirtis, and Commander Will Riker, Jonathan Frakes. Aspects of the Deltans as a sexually liberated species were also transferred to Troy's empathic Betazoid race. The strikingly bald Deltans have finally begun to make their Star Trek comeback over 40 years after Star Trek, the motion picture. Deltans were seen in Star Trek Picard Season 2's premiere, with Soji, Issa Briones, and dear Agnes Girardi, Alison Pill, meeting 25th century members of Ilia's race on the planet Raritan 4. Star Trek Section 31, the first Star Trek movie made for streaming on Paramount+, also features a 24th century Deltan played by Humberly Gonzalez. Persis Khambatta proved unforgettable as Lt. Ilia, and Star Trek is finally breathing new life into the Deltans. In the vast galaxy of Star Trek, where actors and characters alike have achieved cult status, Persis Khambatta is a name that resonates with a unique brilliance. She was the first actor to portray a Deltan, a member of a humanoid species known for their striking bald heads and heightened sexual allure, in Star Trek, the motion picture, 1979. Playing the role of Lieutenant Ilia, Khambatta left an indelible mark on the franchise. But what happened to this trailblazing actress after her landmark role? Khambatta's life and career were a roller coaster of breakthroughs, struggles, and untimely tragedy. Early life and the road to stardom. Born on October 2, 1948 in Mumbai, India, Persis Khambatta had an unconventional rise to fame. She started her career as a model, becoming the face of India's beauty and fashion scene in the 1960s. By 17, she had already made history, winning the Miss India crown in 1965, which paved the way for her to represent her country on the international stage. Her natural beauty and poise helped her land modeling gigs in Europe, and she soon found herself working in London and Paris. the leap from modeling to acting seemed inevitable, but it was a rare feat for Indian actors to make a splash in Western cinema at the time. Yet, Khambatta's striking looks and charismatic presence gave her an edge. Her first significant role came in the British production The Willoughby Conspiracy, 1975, where she shared the screen with icons like Sidney Poitier and Michael Caine. This marked the beginning of her Hollywood career, setting the stage for her breakout moment. The Star Trek breakthrough, Lieutenant Ilia, in 1979, Khambatta's portrayal of Lieutenant Ilia in Star Trek, the motion picture, would become her most iconic role. Lieutenant Ilia was a Deltan, a race characterized by their extreme sensuality, who had to take a vow of celibacy to serve in Starfleet. Khambatta's performance brought a mix of grace, emotion, and mystery to the character, making her one of the more memorable figures in the film. Her bald appearance, boldly shaving her head for the role, further distinguished her from other characters, making Ilia an instantly recognizable figure in the Star Trek universe. Ilia's character was not only unique, but also carried the responsibility of being one of the few major female characters in a male-dominated science fiction genre. Khambatta's beauty, combined with her portrayal of Ilia's strength and sensitivity, left a lasting impression on fans, even though the character never reappeared in subsequent Star Trek films or series. The role was intended to have a larger impact. In fact, Ilia was slated to be a main character in Star Trek Phase 2, a planned series that was eventually shelved in favor of turning it into the motion picture. The cancellation of the show meant that Khambatta's time in the Star Trek universe was cut short. Nevertheless, her contribution to the franchise was substantial, making her the first South Asian actor to play a major role in Star Trek, blazing a trail for future representation in the series. Life after Star Trek. Despite the success of Star Trek, the motion picture, Khambatta struggled to capitalize on her breakthrough role. Hollywood at the time offered few meaningful roles for women of color, and Khambatta often found herself pigeonholed into roles that leaned heavily on her exotic beauty rather than her acting skills. She appeared in several films during the 1980s, including Nighthawks, 1981, alongside Sylvester Stallone, and Megaforce, 1982, but none reached the same level of acclaim as her Star Trek role. Khambatta also dabbled in television, appearing in guest spots on popular shows like MacGyver and Hunter, but her career never quite reached the heights that many had predicted. As the 1990s approached, Khambatta began to distance herself from acting. She published a coffee table book titled Pride of India in 1997, celebrating Indian beauty pageant winners, a nod to her own roots in that world. A tragic end, sadly. Khambatta's life was cut short by health complications. In 1983, she underwent life-saving coronary bypass surgery after suffering a massive heart attack, an event that would foreshadow her later health struggles. On August 18, 1998, at the age of 49, Khambatta passed away from another heart attack in Mumbai. Her untimely death shocked many of her fans and colleagues, cutting short a life and career that still had untapped potential. Khambatta's legacy, though her acting career may not have reached the heights that some expected after Star Trek, the motion picture, Persis, Khambatta left an enduring legacy. She broke barriers for South Asian actors in Hollywood and brought a memorable character to life in one of the most iconic science fiction franchises of all time. Khambatta's courage to take on a role that required her to shed traditional notions of beauty, shaving her head, and fully embracing the Deltan persona, was emblematic of her boldness and willingness to push boundaries. Khambatta's portrayal of Ilia remains a significant moment in Star Trek history, and though her career faced challenges, she will always be remembered as a trailblazer.